Hello, welcome to Talking About Speedway. My name's Graeme Sinden. My good friend, colleague and co-host Con Migro joins us not in the studio but online from his home in Manoora following some minor surgery. So unusually, let's welcome Con Migro online. Good morning, Con. Nice to be with you, albeit in different circumstances.
G'day, Graeme. You won't believe this is my second interview on radio and television for today. I was out of bed at 2:30 this morning. I did an interview on national radio with Trevor Chappell, a former Perth ABC announcer who's announced his retirement from radio, and he decided he'd like to talk to me again after all those years. So I'm a bit disappointed you never sat up and listened to me, but...
Con, I can assure you I had all the good intent, but then I thought, nah.
I still love you anyway, don't worry about it. But on that, it's amazing. Already this morning I've received an enormous amount of emails and text messages from people all over Australia that heard the show. So it was interesting to know that a lot of people that work, shift work or whatever they might have been doing or can't sleep at night, they were up there listening. So that made me feel pretty good. And a couple of guys like the Phil McCurtains of the world, former Australian sidecar champion, were guys quickly onto myself, and that was great.
Well, of course, it's not so late for guys on the East Coast, but anyhow, let's talk about more local stuff on the West Coast here, Con. And in fact, the Perth Motorplex due to open on the 24th of October. Can't wait for that. But also, we got some new fantastic improvements down there, specifically with the lighting for the Speedway track, and then, of course, the resurfacing or totally rebuilding of the drag strip. That's going to be fantastic.
Well, it's a $4.9 million refurbishment. A brand new drag strip is going in, and in fact, it will be completed very soon. And a brand new track lighting system. Now that it completes, the old system has been taken down. The new system will be 4 times the power that the last system was, and it will be more LED type lighting, so that when the lights do go off, or say fireworks, the team that Gavin employs can switch the lights and they'll virtually come on straight away. Now, Graeme, where we used to sit on a race night, we often used to discuss coming out of turn 4 into the main straight. We often used to say there was a little to us, it looked like a dark patch. And Gavin was aware of that, and they hope that they've rectified that with the new lighting system.
Yeah. When you say, 4 times brighter, I mean, there are technical terms for lux and all of those sort of things, and I think it used to be, let's say 3,000, it's now going to be 10,000. That's just unbelievable, isn't it? The track will be just brilliant, and particularly for those clay per view and television viewers.
Well, that's right. It's gone to nearly 10,000 lux. And the other good thing about it, with the black track surface, sometimes it's very difficult, particularly black and dark blue cars, and even motorcycle races when they do race there in black leathers, it's very difficult to pick them up. And that's one of my criticisms to the divisions. I've been asking them to please try and brighten their cars up with the paint jobs. So this might even answer that little request, because the cars are presented beautifully, but sometimes their numbers that are very difficult to pick up because of the black surface.
Indeed. Con, I want to talk to you about motorcycles later in the program, international motorcycles, that is, in particular. But the thing that I wanted to capture now, Gavin's nailed the new calendar for this season. I simply can't wait. I mean, we say that every year, I know, but Saturday, 24th of October, the Powerpalooza kicks off the Perth Motorplex season here in WA. Always a great meeting, sponsored by Kwinana City Council. I can't wait for it. A bit of drags, a bit of speedway and burnouts and all the other things that I don't particularly like, but for fans to be able to see everything on one night at one venue, just spectacular.
Well, you've heard me say this before. I didn't think that the two disciplines racing on the one night would work, and that's proved me completely wrong. And I think the crowds regularly pull around about 8,500 to 10,000 people. So it is a very popular event, and it gives fans that follow motorsport an opportunity to see speedway and drag racing on the same night, not at the same time. And of course the burnout. So as you both know, or as we both know, I should say, it is a huge success, and it's one of the highlights of the season. And to answer your question about Gavin's done a fabulous job. To think that we've been there 25 years or 26 years going on this season, and to think that we struggled. I know that how much it cost us personally. I'm talking about the Migro family, but Gavin's turned the place right around. The last 5 years, the crowds have got bigger, stronger. The racing's got bigger, stronger. The numbers of competitors have gone through the roof, you could virtually say. And this year, he leaves to go to America at the end of July, where he'll finalise the deal with Kyle Larson and Bragg Sweet to bring the High Limit Series back to Western Australia. And you and I both know how successful that was last season.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Well, Con, just kicking off, as I say, with the Powerpalooza, the 24th of October, and then there are other events like following that, the Westernapolis event. I'm just looking at my phone as we're talking here, and the King of Wings again, Scarterfield Smash Repairs King of Wings. That's always a beauty, but the one I'm looking for in particular is the John Day Classic on the 5th of December. Always a brilliant Speedway meeting, particularly for speed cars, a John Day Classic. And then, of course, my favourite event of the whole year, notwithstanding High Limit, but Boxing Day on the 26th of December. A fantastic meeting.
Yeah, it is. And it's amazing how you've just spoken about speed cars. You know, speed cars dropped to around about 8 or 10 cars. This year, they're reporting they're going to have in excess of 25. Some of the malcontents that were around the back of the sport were bringing it down. The club made a big, tough decision. They got rid of those types of people that weren't playing the game, and the numbers have gradually built up. And the speed cars this season, I think we can look forward to some great shows. So the John Day Classic this year, with the locals and plus always a couple of interstate drivers will come over, will be rewarded with some fabulous racing once again.
Mm. Well, I see Graeme Jones and the team at WASDA have also pulled off or put back on the Esslinger Triple Crown Series, and the first night of that, in fact, is Boxing Day. I remember last season we interviewed Graeme Jones and young Michael, I think it's Michael Andretti, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Young American boy.
The American speed car driver that came over to race for Graeme. So round one of the Esslinger Triple Series, Con, will be on Boxing Day, and then the second night of that will be on the 28th of December, which is the first night of the High Limit Series, and the final Esslinger Series will be on the final night of the High Limit Series on the 30th of December. So Gavin's scheduled the speed cars on Boxing Night, probably the biggest night of the season, and then the 28th and the 30th of December. How good is that for speed cars and the Esslinger Triple Crown Series?
Wonderful, and what a huge job that Graeme Jones has, or contribution he's made to West Australian Speedway and Australian Speedway for that matter. He won an Australian title as a driver. He's now probably one of the most successful car owners in the sport. I know he dearly would love to have his car go across the line first in this year's Australian, or this season's Australian title, which is going to be held in Toowoomba. He's got his heart set on that. He's spent a lot of money getting his car up to scratch for the start of the Motorplex season. And with his daughter, Becky, they've got some big plans ahead of them. And of course, Graham's been a huge supporter of Gavin, or mine in the beginning, and Gavin's to this date. He's a man that puts his money where his mouth is, and he loves the sport with a passion.
Mm. Well, then, of course, Con, we've talked about the High Limit International Series already. That'll be a beauty. And, Con, I just need to say that when we talk about these Americans that come over for the High Limit International Series, I mean, there is no better drivers in the world that come here and race for Gavin in the High Limit International Series. You're
absolutely right, Graeme. In fact, you look at the guys now that are kicking, as I say, backside in the industry over in America now. They're all young men like Rico Abreu, Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson himself. Are all guys that raced here at the Motorplex last season, and I know that Gavin's got them. And there are a lot of Americans now lining up to meet Gavin when he goes over for August to discuss the possibility of coming to race in West Australia. It is a very big highlight. I know Rico Abreu has got unfinished business. He's been here 3 times now. The last twice, first he went home without even firing a shot, and the next time I think he come over here with selling merchandise more on his mind than racing. And I know that just going by, he's driving for Tony Stewart now. Now, I know Tony very well. I brought him to Australia in a speed car. I know for a fact that Rico will want to come back here and maybe win that 120,000 race. He's capable enough. And we've seen some of the meetings this year in America where he and Larson and Sweet have clashed. They've been stuff that legends are made of.
Mm. We say 120,000 to win, Con. It just rolls off your tongue. But 120,000 in Australian sprint car racing is huge money, the biggest prize money and biggest prize purse ever in Australia. And even the Americans lick their lips when you talk about 120,000 Australian to win that race. And there's big prize money on offer for nights 1 and 2 of the High Limit International Series, I should say. So that is a spectacular event, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it does. It's amazing when you talk to Americans, and they're not being skites, but because that's their full-time job, it's all they do for a living. You'll often say, well, the race will pay, say, 10,000 or 50 or 120,000 to win. And we say, do you want to know what second place is going to pay? And they say, no, we're going to go there to win it. That's how normally their mind's set, that they're going there not to run any. They reckon running second is the first of the losers. Now, that is their mindset. And you can judge by the guys that we've had here, as you saw last year. And some of those young men that raced here last season are now the top dogs in either High Limit or World of Outlaws in America at this current point in time when we're talking.
Mm. Well, you're dead right. When you talk about Kyle Larson himself, of course, Brad Sweet even's had a couple of wins, Buddy Kofoid, Aaron Rutzel, they're all right up there, aren't they, doing things and winning races?
Yes, I would be lovely if Gavin could get David Gravel, because I see in the American write-ups you get now, young Larson and Gravel have been clashing again, mainly through words, but they are not on each other's Christmas card list, I'm sure. And another thing that Larson's also got to be very careful of, because we saw this happen in British League many, many years ago, with the strong commitment or the huge commitments they have to racing. Now, Larson's been racing NASCAR, speed cars and sprint cars in America, and he's doing literally hundreds of meetings a season, and he's driving very well. But a lot of guys are now talking about, is he going to burn himself out? So that's something that young Kyle will have to manage. And, of course, that's something that by coming to Perth, it does give him an opportunity to rest a little bit.
Mm. Well, you wouldn't know it, would you, when you see him race and the commitment he makes here. Con, after the High Limit International Series, we've got all the other Butte traditional racing, the Barbagallo Australian Mr. Sprint Car Nationals. I'm just looking down at my phone again as we're speaking. Cricky Boys Shootout, they're all in there. The Bella Modular Silver Cup, the WA Late Models then come into contention during the month of March. They've got their 100 lapper again, which was sensational last year. You and I both loved that. And they've got that 9 days of racing, or 5 days of racing in 9 days. So the month of March belongs to late models, and they actually earned that this year, didn't they? Gavin put a big commitment into late models, and it paid off, and now they've earned the right to own March again. Yes,
they turned the corner, and to think that they haven't been going very long in Australia. When you look at the history, it started in West Australia with the likes of the Alan Nylanders and the Chris Cardys. They came to me and said that we'd like to run late models on the Speedway, but we're not ready to come to race for you at the moment because we don't think we're good enough. And they waited till they were good enough, but now we are reaping the benefits of it because we have some of the best drivers outside of North America in racing here. So we're very fortunate, and the division's grown with massive strength right around Australia. And young Joe Chalmers is currently in America racing in their big series in America. So a lot of our guys go over there and try to better their skills.
And don't they come back better drivers as well? No better than Kyle Blight. Look the effort that he put in over there, and he's a world beater here in Australia, certainly, current Australian champion, so he's doing everything right. Maddington Toyota, Con, that series, the strongest domestic series in Australia, is on again in earnest. And announcement was made recently that they're going to regional tracks again, particularly Geraldton and Bunbury, I think a couple of times, and further announcements to be made. So that's something to look forward to as well.
One of the big things that's happened with Maddington Toyota is we know Jason Sutton's been working there for some time with Craig Nylander, but now Darren O'Day has joined the forces with them because Maddington Toyota now have got Canning Vale Toyota. They've also got the Forestdale series. They have 4 or 5 car businesses in Albany and that in the southwest, and also they have couple of Toyota dealerships in the metro area in Perth. So Darren is going to be very much involved to promote Maddington and Canning Vale naturally, but he's going to be also doing his Speedway. Now this will relieve him because he was with the newspaper industry, and that was a huge commitment for him. Now, not that he's not going to be working hard, but he'll have a little bit more time to dedicate some more time to plugging Speedway, and the commitment that Maddington Toyota has done. And Marcel Brazier has continued to support the sport beautifully. We went to the presentation nights, as you know, up at Fraser's in Kings Park, and that was a touch of Hollywood. And don't anyone ever try and tell us that we can't put on a show. And it was mainly, you could say, you got to pat Marcel on the back for that, because he had the beautiful neon signs and in the beautiful setting of the Kings Park. You probably couldn't find a better setting.
Oh, it was sensational, of course, as always, for the Maddington Toyota dudes and the sprint car entrance group. And Darren O'Day, you mentioned him. What a sterling job he does, almost in the background. And the job that he does, putting all that series together, the dates, and he does the interviews of the winners and the podium each Saturday night or each time they race. He's been a good behind-the-scenes man, absolutely, hasn't he?
Well, here's a funny little story, and I'm not taking any praise for his ability to write articles, but I discovered him when he was an unknown. He joined forces with me. He was a former Meriden boy, went to the Eastern Districts High School. In fact, I was a guest speaker once at the assembly at that school. This is going back in another lifetime. But anyway, young Darren joined with me, and he helped us with Claremont Speedway with the publicity. And then he's now gone on. He did the Motorplex program for a couple of seasons. Then he joined forces with the sprint car entrance group and has gone from strength to strength. And as you said, the rest is history of what he's done and what he's giving to the sport week in and week out. And I really believe that Marcel has given him an opportunity to even dedicate himself more to being able to express just the thing that he loves is Speedway and motorsport.
Mm. Talking about Speedway and motorsport and the Maddington Toyota Sprint Car Series Championship, Dane King shot the current 3 times and defending champion across in America as we speak, doing some good things. He's won a heat race and a feature. Yeah,
well, here's another. I mean, you and I, we love him because you and I, we sort of took a bit of credit for him joining the Bunbury team, because we kept on saying to Bunbury, look, you've got a homegrown boy here, give him a go. And Peter Cricky did, and Ryan Cricky's carried on with it. But young Dane left the presentation night at Fraser's 6 weeks ago. He was promised only 2 drives in America with the team out of South Dakota. And the guy said to him, we're not promising you any more than that, but if you can prove that you can drive a sprint car, we'll give you more. Well, the guy's gone on, he's won a couple of heats. He raced at Knoxville last weekend. But prior to that, he had won a feature race. A lot of people said, oh, yeah, but the top guns weren't there. Don't matter. There's a lot of good drivers at a lot of those regional tracks that you go to in America that are very hard nuts to crack. And now he raced at Knoxville last week. Wade Ornger did a brilliant interview with him. He was a little bit out of sorts at the Knoxville because I think the high speed of Knoxville might have phased him a little bit. But, you know, there's a young man that has dedicated his life to Speedway racing. He's been an Australian speed car champion. And you and I are amazed at what he does in a sprint car. And this year, I don't think it's going to be any different.
Mm. Well, you talk about Knoxville, Con. I mean, after racing here in Australia and around the Motorplex for the majority of his life, although he did go to America in a speed car as well, but when you talk about Knoxville, going down the straight, I mean, you'd be wondering when you're supposed to start turning into turns 1 and 3. I mean, the straights are incredibly long, the speeds are horrific. So it must be a huge commitment, A, to race there, but B, when you haven't raced there before, the straights and the speeds are phenomenal.
Well, it's daunting. And you know, another great thing too, Graeme, I've been to America a million times in my life, and if you're on your own, it's very lonely. Now, if you're racing a car or a motorbike or England and Europe or anything, but he's able to take with him Matty Cochran. Now, Matty Cochran is his crew chief here in Australia, Western Australia. So it's not only going to benefit he as a driver, but Matty Cochran is going to come back with a lot more tricks up his sleeve because he'll be alongside, rubbing shoulders with the best in the business. So I think we'll see a very revitalised Dane King shot in the Bunbury Toyota team.
Mm. Con, switching our attention to international motorcycle racing, Ty Woofenden announced his retirement from professional speedway racing just recently.
Yes, I look. I'm very upset. It's sad that he has had to pull the pin, but I also congratulate him for it because what he went through last year, the horrific injuries he received. I mean, he was close. Well, he's living virtually on death's doorstep, and that's not an exaggeration. He really he spent the summer here last year training his backside off to get himself fit, riding push bikes, cycling, swimming. He tried to get himself fit. He did ride British League and Polish League, but he found that he had to go up the step to ride in the Speedway Grand Prix. It wasn't going to happen. And he was hoping that it would get better and better. And he's come to the realization now that the days of him getting in there and rubbing shoulders with the Speedway Grand Prix riders, it's not going to happen. It might, but it quite obviously won't. He's run his race so sensibly, he's decided, look, enough's enough. He's got a beautiful home here in Western Australia. He's got a couple of beautiful homes in England and Europe. So I think he'll come back and live his life out here in Australia. And it wouldn't surprise me that if he and Marshall McDermott don't put their heads together and we see the man in a sprint car racing not so far down the road.
Well, that'll be exciting, but I don't think we've seen the last of him on a motorcycle either, perhaps not at the professional level, but I think he'll do one or two meetings, perhaps the Rob Wolfenden meeting over here in Perth again. A few little whispers already, so that's still to come, but what a great career he's had. 3 times British world champion, the most successful British Speedway rider. Just an unbelievable career.
Yes, a fabulous career. And when you look at his father, as I bought his father at Claremont a million years ago, and his father was a hell of a racer, but this kid is just in another postcode, as you could say. He dedicated himself to Speedway. He knew what he wanted. He said he was going to be the world champion, and he did it 3 times. He wanted to equal Ivan Major's record. That's not to be. But as you say, it's not the end of the world for him. And it wouldn't surprise me even a couple of seasons down the road, because he's still a very young man. When he starts to feel a bit better, that he mightn't be tempted to go back to motorcycles. But I'd really genuinely say to you, Graeme, as a friend to him, and I talk to you because you're one of my mates, I would like to say to him, give the motorbikes away now and concentrate on cars. If he wants to continue to race Speedway, he can have a lot of fun, and he doesn't have to spend his whole life in an aircraft chasing racetracks around Europe and England.
Mm. Well, Con, it's been fun talking to you again, albeit in different circumstances to our normal talking about Speedway show, but this is just a bit of a catch-up during the off-season and just chatting about a few of the things that are coming up, and I'm certainly looking forward to those. I hope the recovery from your minor surgery is going well and you continue to improve, and we look forward to seeing you back in the studio as soon as you get on the bike again.
Well, thanks, Graeme, but I can say to you, I have got one more operation to come. That's going to be at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and that's when everything gets reconnected. So I want everyone to say a little prayer for Con, and thank you for phoning me, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about the sport that we both love, Speedway racing. We love it with a passion, and we wouldn't want it to be any other way.
Well, Con Migro, Mr. Speedway there. Great to have him back on the airwaves. Hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll catch you next time right here on Talking About Speedway. I'm Graeme Sinden. Bye for now.